Alright, I picked up this iCan brand HDMI video capture. It's an HDMI to USB video capture dongle. This thing is $20 and really just piques my curiosity. Like, honestly, how good can this thing be for $20? Does it work? How simple is it to use? Let's find out. Here's the back. I'll give you a good look at the back if you want to take a look at those specs there. Let's open her up. Yeah, literally no instructions. This is it. You get the dongle. Surprisingly made of metal. It's like an aluminum housing, and it's screwed together on the ends. Looks pretty high quality. I mean, again, this thing was $20, so pretty crazy if it actually works. And of course, looks like it's only USB 2. I believe the box said it was only USB 2, so it shouldn't matter. We are plugging it into USB 3 ports, but really shouldn't matter. Let's just plug that in there, and we'll need something to test it with. Alright, I just grabbed my Mega Retron HD. I just wanted something quick that had HDMI that I could test this with. So we'll take the HDMI cable out of this thing, and we will plug it in just like that. Alright, so on the computer side, when I plugged that dongle in, literally nothing happened. And as far as I know, Windows already has the drivers for this, so there's no like drivers that we have to manually install. In fact, if we go into Device Manager, we can see there's nothing that is plugged in that doesn't have drivers. In fact, I believe this will show up, oddly enough, as a camera. I do not have a webcam plugged in right now, but this shows up like it was a web camera. And that way, any software like OBS that can just like import a stream from a webcam should be able to import this. So let's open up OBS and see what happens. So it looks like it's working. Under sources, it says video capture device. That's it. If we click on that and go to settings, we can change custom resolutions. By default, it was 1080p, 30 frames per second. We need to make sure the audio output mode is set to one of our direct sound. We have this use custom audio device checked, and in the audio device we have digital audio interface, USB digital audio. That again is the dongle. So we're telling it we want to use the dongle for audio as well as for video. So as you can see, it pretty much just works. The lag is actually not too bad. I've got a controller here in hand, and this might be hard to demonstrate. Let me move this over a window here, or over a monitor. So I got the controller right here, and if we go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, there's a little bit of input lag, but it's not as bad as most capture devices. I've had like TV tuners and other capture devices in the past where the input lag was literally, you know, a half a second or more. It's virtually, not virtually, it's literally completely unplayable. You cannot play it on the stream. So ideally you would come out of this, or out of your source and go into an HDMI splitter, and then have one go off to your display and one go off to your capture device. But in a pinch, you could play directly off of this onto the source, or onto the capture, in real time, especially if it's a game that's not super fast-paced. It's actually surprisingly low lag, considering, especially considering it's USB 2. So we'll take a look at some of these recorded clips. This thing's really meant for 30 frames per second. I went into the settings. Actually, the default settings was that it would record at your screen resolution. So for me, that's 2560 by 1440. So this first recording was recorded at 2560 by 1440 at 30 frames per second. This second recording I tried, I changed the settings to 720p 60 frames per second, and I think it looks a little bit choppy. This third video I set So 720p, 60 frames per second, turned on buffering, and I don't know, maybe it's a little bit smoother with buffering, but there's still a lot of frame drops. It's only using 1.5% of my CPU, according to OBS, so it's certainly not my computer. This thing just cannot keep up with 60 frames per second. As we saw on the back of the box, they're only advertising it as 1080p 30 frames per second. And I think the first video, which even though it was recording at my screen resolution, was probably natively recording at 1080p, and that was 30 frames per second. And that looked the least juddery, the least amount of stutter. So yeah, I don't think it's any good for 60 frames per second, but for 30 frames per second, it's fine. The truth is, for $20, it works. It's super simple to use. It's literally plug and play. Plug it in, open up OBS, and pretty much away you go. I think what a lot of people use these for is almost like a cam link, where you would plug in like a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. It's HDMI output you would plug into this, and you could stream in live video, kind of making like a super webcam, basically a very high-end webcam using a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. That's what a lot of streamers, a lot of YouTubers do, and so hence products like the Camlink exist. I think using it like that, it would actually be fine, because 30 frames per second is okay for that use. For gaming, you might want 60 frames per second, but just for video off of a camera, 30 is fine. The other thing to note is the bitrate's fairly low, and so in Sonic the Hedgehog, it looked okay. I would say it looks good, until too much on the screen was moving quickly. And then, it got pretty pixelated. The bitrate definitely couldn't keep up. And I think if you were using it as a camera, you had a blurred background, the background wasn't moving, the camera was on a tripod, and it was just you in front of a camera, I think that would actually be fine. I think it would look okay. Again, for $20, it's pretty amazing. I'm really surprised that these HDMI capture chipsets have gotten this ubiquitous. They've gotten this common that they can pump them out in a Chinese factory in high enough volume that they're coming down to the point we can buy this device in a metal case for like $20 in a store. It's outstanding. It's amazing. The fact it works at all is incredible. So yeah, if you're streaming on a budget, this could be an option for you. Obviously, it's not going to replace your HD60 Elgato. The bitrate and the frame rate, it just doesn't have enough horsepower or bandwidth. USB 2.0, not USB 3.0. So could definitely use some improvements, but again, for $20, it works, and that in itself is impressive.